Jin's tears broke in London when he called Jimin's promise when the grand stage in the middle of London stood tall with lights shining into every corner. BTS fans who had gathered since morning knew they were about to witness something unusual. However, none of them expected that the evening would save the most moving moment that has occurred during the history of Jin's solo concert since he completed his military service. London's soundcheck that afternoon was indeed scheduled to be closed. But in fact, an amateur video leaked from a corner of the stands shows Jin standing on stage with a voice that starts to break as he says the name of someone so many people miss, Jimin. Fans who watched the footage, which has now spread widely on Platform X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, couldn't hold back their tears when they saw Jin's expression. There was a long pause in his speech, as if he was struggling to contain his emotions. His voice began to tremble as he said he was coming. Then the genie fell silent, staring at the empty seats that had not been completely filled. And after a few seconds, in a voice very quiet but clear enough to be heard through the microphone, he said Jimin's name. Just one word, however, was enough to make the entire arena silent for a moment. The question immediately arises: why did Jin call Jimin? What is the meaning of the phrase he said he would come? Is this just a joke, an expression of longing? Or is there something deeper, more personal, that the genie is revealing to the world without actually saying it all? Since the beginning of the year, the relationship between the BTS members, who are currently serving their mandatory military service or in a comeback transition period, has been the subject of speculation and in-depth analysis from fans. Jimin, who is known for his emotional and passionate involvement with all of BTS's performances, has lately appeared much more quiet, reserved, and tends to avoid the public spotlight. Even on occasions where the rest of the members appeared in brief reunions or live broadcasts, Jimin's absence became even more conspicuous. That is why when Jin, who has always been known as a cheerful and light figure, mentioned Jimin's name in such an emotional context, the entire fandom was shaken. They don't see an idol making a joke. They see a brother calling his brother, a friend who is missing someone who means a lot in his life. A few hours after the moment happened, the hashtags #JinMenyButJimin, #DiaKandatong, and #Tanji'sJin immediately dominated trending topics around the world. Big fan bases like Army Bar and Park Jimin Base re-uploaded videos from various angles, analyzing every word, tone of voice, even Jin's body language. One of the viral analyses mentioned that the moment when Jin mentioned Jimin was not just a stage improvisation, but something that Jin had kept for a long time, and finally, he could not stand it when he returned to stand alone on stage. "This is not about a concert or a show," wrote one X user. "It's about a feeling of longing that has been buried for too long." Jin and Jimin, they shared many moments together. And we all know, Jimin has always been the closest to the stage. So when he's not there, Jin felt lost. The fact that London was the first city where BTS performed a stadium-scale concert in 2019 made it all the more emotional. London is no ordinary city. This is where history takes shape, where they used to perform with passion, sharing energy and happiness with tens of thousands of spectators. And now, when Jin returns there without the other members, with a smaller but no less magnificent auditorium, the memories of the past are stifling. "He promises to come," Jin said, and the phrase haunted many fans. This word has two meanings. It could be that Jimin did promise to come to the concert, either as a secret guest or just as an anonymous spectator. But it can also be that the sentence is metaphorical. Maybe it's a deeper promise, a promise to return to the stage, a promise to remain part of BTS, a promise not to disappear. But what is clear is that Jin mentioned it in front of thousands of people, in the most vulnerable moment ever recorded since he left the military. For several days after that moment, fans began to take a close look at Jimin's activities on social media. No new uploads, no comments, no reactions. This triggers more worries. Some people suspect that Jimin is going through a difficult time personally. This allegation is reinforced by the fact that some time earlier, Jimin was reportedly not present at a small reunion of the members at HYB headquarters, a meeting that featured photos of RM, Jungkook, and even J-Hope. Not a few suspect that there is a distance being formed, or even already formed, between the members of BTS. However, not all believe in that assumption. Many also argue that Jin and Jimin have a very strong bond, and Jin's sentence is a form of ordinary longing, something natural between two friends who have not seen each other for a long time. However, anyone who watched the video could definitely feel how sincere and deep Jin's emotions were. He's not acting. It's not creating a sensation. Jin stood in the middle of the stage, in a spotlight that should shine on the joy of his comeback, but instead showed a man who looked empty without his colleagues. In previous interviews, Jin has said that Jimin is the person who most often accompanies him during vocal training. Even when the two were under great pressure ahead of the big performance, they would encourage each other silently. Jimin had his own way of supporting people. Jin said in the documentary Break the Silence, "He doesn't always talk, but his presence can be soothing." The quote again came to the fore after the events in London. Many fans felt that Jin was completely missing the figure on stage, a figure who would normally stand a few feet away from him, give a small wave, or just stare from behind the stage curtain with a smile. And when the figure does not appear, all that remains is empty space and echoes of promises that can either be kept or not. On the other hand, the HYBE side did not give an official statement about the mention of Jimin by Jin. They remained silent, perhaps because they did not want to aggravate the situation, or perhaps because they themselves did not know exactly what was happening between the members. This further magnifies the speculation, as fans are given no context or explanation. They only have one video, one voice, one moment, and a myriad of questions. Some fans also attempted to link this event to Jimin's mysterious old post on Instagram stories a few months earlier. In the post, Jimin wrote, "Sometimes silence is safer. Sometimes silence is safer." Many now see the sentence as a sign that Jimin is indeed withdrawing from the outside world, perhaps for personal reasons, perhaps because he is processing something that he has not been able to share even with his own fans. When the main concert night finally arrived in London, fans waited in the hope that Jimin would appear as a surprise. Some even carried banners reading "Jimin, come back" and "Keep your promise." But the concert took place in his absence. Jin performed amazingly, performing touching songs, including solo songs and several rearranged BTS songs. But throughout that appearance, there was no mention of Jimin anymore. Only once, at the end of the concert, when Jin looked down for a very long time before leaving the stage, could he be seen whispering quietly. Some fans with ultra-zoom cameras claimed he said, "Hyung is still here." I don't know for whom, I don't know for what. That night, thousands of people came out of the stadium with puffy eyes and hearts full of question marks. It's not that the concerts are bad. Quite the contrary. Jin's concerts are considered very strong musically and emotionally. But because they feel like they are witnessing something more than a show. They feel like they're peeking at a tiny snippet of the emotional dynamics actually going on behind the scenes of South Korea's biggest entertainment industry. One thing is certain. The relationship between Jin and Jimin is not just that of colleagues. They've been through so much together. And when Jin mentioned Jimin's name in such a vulnerable moment, it wasn't just a statement. It was a call. A call that may still resonate today, no matter where Jimin is. That promise he said he would come is still unfulfilled. But in a world full of uncertainty, it may be that kind of hope and love that keeps BTS afloat. And in the crowd of the world, a trembling Jin voice calling Jimin's name has become a symbol of longing, loyalty, and something that cannot be said with words but is felt by millions of hearts who watch it.